with the power of nature. Do you feel safe that those tanks are safe from another earthquake, from a lightning strike, or from a tornado?
I don't have such expert knowledge about the details of the tanks, but as I mentioned earlier, what I'm truly afraid of is the groundwater. As you know, Japan is a country with a lot of rain. You can even consider it to be a monsoon country. And when we add that to the fact that we are a very, very mountainous nation, that means you have a lot of water always running underground to the ocean. When you look at Fukushima, the power plant, you see that nearby is a very big mountain range called the Abukuma mountain range. And mountain ranges are always, as I said, source of water. And there's just a tremendous amount of groundwater always flowing very strongly towards the ocean. Even in our area, Tokai Mura, we have lots, it's a very flat area, but even so we have a lot of groundwater always making its way to the ocean. But given the fact that the special terrain of Fukushima encourages groundwater, I know that at present the people in charge of the Fukushima plant are saying that they will somehow stop the groundwater from getting into the premises of the plant, but I think it's an extremely difficult task. I frankly think it is an impossible task, and I think anyone who thinks that they can accomplish such things and conquer nature in that way is simply just full of themselves and just and not really realistic. I am, again, very concerned about the groundwater, in part because as a result of the meltdown, we have this spent fuel that is just being abandoned and just being left there. And as long as it exists, it is constantly emitting radiation. It is constantly being in contact with water, and you're always going to get more and more contaminated water produced. So unless that spent fuel is somehow taken care of, you're always going to have this danger of more contaminated water getting out. Yes, as you pointed out, I believe that the life span of the tanks is only about 3 years. I've heard that they were very sloppily put together in a very short amount of time. But even more than that, I believe that this groundwater is a tremendous problem, and the idea of this contaminated water reaching the ocean, I think, is a very, very serious and frightening thing.
Siegfried Nidl, freelancer from Germany. Thank you for mentioning my country. It's a decision of my country upon the nuclear power. My question is, you are against the nuclear power, but how is the majority in your assembly in Tokamura and the population in Tokamura? There are also a majority against nuclear power?
In regard to your question, first of all, we do have an assembly in our village, and there are 20 members, and 19 of the members basically created a committee that was going to look. It's a special committee that was going to do research or study the nuclear power issue. And towards this committee, 4 residents of the community basically sent in submissions for ideas that they wanted the committee to adopt. And out of these 4 suggestions, 3 of them were basically that they wanted the Tokai power plant, number 2 power plant, to not be restarted, and to actually have it decommissioned as quickly as possible. And one of the submissions was that if the safety of the facility could be confirmed, then it should be restarted. This committee took a year to deliberate this matter, and as a result, none of the 4 suggestions were adopted. If we look at the assembly members in more detail, there are about 8 members. There are 8 members, I believe, who are very clearly against the Tokai number 2 power plant being restarted. They are wanting it to be decommissioned as quickly as possible. And there are 10 people who have the opposite position, that they want it to be restarted. And then there are 2 people who are kind of in the middle and have not decided. And this is kind of the power makeup, or the views of the people inside this committee, inside the assembly. And although this idea has been deliberated for, this topic has been deliberated for the past year, none of them have changed their positions. In response to your question about the people of the village, we have not done ourselves a survey to see what the people think. However, Ibaraki University has done a survey, and they have come with the result that a little over 50%, just a little bit over 50%, want the Tokai number 2 power plants to not be restarted. If I could add another extra point, which this is a survey was conducted by the Ibaragi newspaper of all of the people in Ibaragi Prefecture, and the result was that, and this was done in July of this year, 59.5% of the prefecture respondents were against the restarting of the plant.
Thank you for mentioning my country, who has to apprehend the loss in the future battle on energy with Germany. We are used to lose in front of Germany, and they are used to also lose in front of us. So we'll see. In 1999, there was an accident in Tokaimura that you mentioned indeed, and I think a few years after that, if I remember well, some people from JOC have been arrested. 6 or 7. Here we have Fukushima, who I think has also been told in the people as a problem born from negligence. There were many negligence in Fukushima ways to handle the crisis. So do you think that in this course of years, in less than 10 years basically, or nearly 10 years, we've had a lack of, I mean, you mentioned universal values, right? I mean, do you think we have a lack of proper justice in the case of Fukushima? Do you think that something has turned wrong or different in Japan between JOC Tokaimura accident and Fukushima? And would you like to see people from Fukushima, I mean TEPCO people or government people, be arrested?
Yes, as you've pointed out, the JCO criticality accident did result in several people being pressed with criminal charges. I think it was criminal charges that led to bodily harm and actual death, and not only a JCO company, but also the head of the facility and also the person responsible for that section. They were arraigned, and I think they were given some kind of a penalty that they had to pay. In regard to your question about whether people in Fukushima might be arrested, I think that's basically what your question is. I really cannot judge this. It's a very difficult question. But when I think about this situation, I have been told, and my understanding is that what happened with the Fukushima #1 power plant, the Daiichi plant, could have happened to other plants in that general region. In other words, all of the reactors along the coast in eastern Japan, and I'm talking about the 3 reactors in Onagawa plant. I'm talking about the 6 reactors in the Fukushima Daiichi and the 4 reactors in Daini, and also the Tokai #2 plant. In other words, 14 nuclear reactors in total. I'm told that if things had changed even a little bit, the same kind of horrible situation could have occurred in any of those reactors. As a result, in other words, I think a meltdown could possibly have occurred for any of those reactors, and because of this, I think it might be very difficult to simply point to the Fukushima Daiichi plant and try to bring criminal charges against just that facility.
Hello, my name is Angela Kuba. I would like to ask about the physical security of the nuclear plants. There have been reports that North Koreans may target plants, nuclear plants, as an act of terrorism. Do you think that unarmed guards are enough to ensure the security of these nuclear plants?
Actually, thank you for your question. Sometimes I do hear similar questions. In other words, if armed guards were there, would nuclear power plants be safe? Some people say that we need a military to defend these facilities. But I fundamentally think that that's not the answer, whether you have military or armed guards. I don't believe that they can actually protect a nuclear power plant. My whole point is that nuclear power plants themselves are dangerous. After all, if a missile were to be aimed at a nuclear power plant, I don't think we could prevent them. I don't think, in spite of the fact there's a great deal of discussion going on in Japan right now about how to hold down or prevent terrorism, I don't think you can really actually stop terrorism. And my whole point is that because nuclear power plants themselves are fundamentally dangerous, and because there's nothing you can do to really protect them if someone wants to do some harm, I think that's why we must get rid of nuclear power plants. We don't need them. Just simply having nuclear power plants means that you incur a tremendous danger. You put yourself in a very dangerous situation.
Khaldoun Azhari, Pan-Orient News. I report for some Arabic countries and Middle East countries. So we know that Mr. Shinzo Abe is promoting the export of nuclear power, mostly the Middle East and some European countries. There are in these countries there are no such earthquakes as in Japan, so it sounds it's safe. So do you think do you trust that Japan should go to export such nuclear energy, because you said Japan is dangerous to the nuclear plants because it's not because of the earthquakes? So do your people in your city, do they support the exporting of the nuclear power to other countries that have no earthquakes history? Thank you.
I personally am completely against the idea, the fact that Japan was the country that was the source of this Fukushima nuclear accident, was causing this nuclear power accident. And given the fact that the reasons for this accident, the actual causes for the accident, are still unclear, when we consider also that the people who were forced to evacuate or who suffered from the accident still have not been duly taken care of, when we don't even know what is going to happen to this entire prefecture yet, I think it is extremely wrong for the Prime Minister and other related people to go abroad and declare that nuclear power plants created by Japan are the safest in the world. I think that kind of activity represents an immoral, unethical activity. I know that there is talk about exporting nuclear power plant technology to some countries in the Middle East, Jordan, Kuwait, also the former Eastern European nations such as Estonia. But it goes back again to qualifications. I think that a nation such as Japan, which was the cause of this Fukushima accident, does not have the qualification is not qualified to export this technology. And I think this kind of shameful activity trying to export this technology should be stopped at once. I'm Fujita from the Kokumin Shimbun. Basically, at present, many people feel that TEPCO cannot be is not capable of taking care of this accident, and there are many voices raised that the national government should step in with its enormous authority and might and abilities to take care of this issue. What do you think about national government with its enormous abilities and power stepping in to something like this? I believe that in order to bring the nuclear accident at Fukushima to a resolution, I believe that the country should step in and the national government should step in. In fact, the position of the national government until now that they have on the surface said everything will be left up to TEPCO. I think this is an attitude that does not reflect the actual truth. In other words, I believe these are false words that are being given. What I mean by this is that until now we have had this fiction that there are these 9 huge electric power companies throughout Japan who have the capability to control and completely be in charge of these nuclear power plants. But since we have seen this terrible accident occur, we know that that is just a fiction, and therefore, considering the fact that something that this terrible has actually occurred, taking into consideration also the fact that until now it has been the national policy, state policy to promote nuclear power, I believe that the only way to bring things to a resolution is for the national government to step in and take care of this accident. I know that there are many consequences that will arise from the national government stepping in this way. The first thing that will have to be done is that the system that is currently in place of supplying electricity to the entire nation, that will have to be completely redone, readjusted. And it will probably mean that TEPCO as a company will have to be dissolved or taken apart. And I think, however, that we do need a new organization, a new framework, so that we can bring this accident to a resolution and that we can bring together, build or establish a new electrical supply system. I think as long as Japan maintains this fiction, which is basically a lie, I think it will simply invite more and more mistrust from not only the Japanese people but from the world. Of course, when I consider what has been done in the past, the national government has had this state policy of promoting nuclear power, and the way that they have promoted nuclear power has been very similar to the way a kind of bad government would operate. In other words, they have used sort of military police state methods in order to promote nuclear power, and I'm not in favor of that kind of action at all. But having said all of this, considering the severity of this accident, I think the state must step in.
Free to stay for a couple more questions, and allow me to just ask a question here. So I'll be asking one question, Mr. Murakami. I know that the decommissioning process of the Tokai Daiichi, Tokai number 1 power plant is taking place since 1998, since it is the oldest nuclear station. It will be the first decommissioning of the nuclear plant in Japan. And I understand that according to the schedule, the disassembly of the reactor is supposed to begin next year, 2014. And my question is it on schedule? And if it is facing some difficulties, what is it? What is it that the decommissioning that's not moved forward as scheduled? And also a similar question on Tokai number 2, Tokai Daini power plant. I know it is stalled, but what's the status of its spent nuclear fuel pool? I know some 320 tons of spent fuel is stored, but is it how is it? Is it in a safe state? And if you can just give me what the status of the spent nuclear fuel is on the Tokai Daini. Thank you.
Regard to your question, first of all, in regard to the first reactor or first plant, we don't refer to it as number 1. We just say the Tokai power plant. It is. First of all, it is in the process of being dismantled, and according to the schedule, the dismantling of the reactor core will not begin until 2 or 3 years from now. Having said this, however, in actuality, the actual fact is that we cannot really start the dismantling process because although the reactor core is considered to be the actual category is low-level radioactive waste materials. Still, it's referred to as L1. That's its category. It's a low-level radiation, but still, the requirement is that it must be buried underneath the ground, at least 50 meters underneath the ground. And the reason we can't, the dismantling process cannot begin is that no place has been found where this radioactive waste material can be buried. So unless a place can be secured, this dismantling of the reactor core cannot begin at all, even though the schedule is several years from now. In regard to the Tokai number 2 plant, in regard to your question about the spent fuel, there are about 2,200 fuel assemblies that are already in the pool itself. And separately from that, I think there are over 920 fuel assemblies that are what we are referred to as dry cask. They're not in water, but they're being stored in a dry manner. And in regard to the spent fuel assemblies in the pool, this cooling process is, of course, always taking place. And I've been told that the cooling process is being made even more redundant and is being made more secure and is being made more safe than before.
Any more question? Your last.
So the fishery in Fukushima is very now affected by the contamination from the sea. What is with the fishery industry in Ibaraki as a neighbor prefecture?
I cannot answer in great detail, but as you know, the situation in Fukushima is that all fish basically is being not caught. However, in Ibaraki, the situation is not quite so dire. I don't have all of the details, but I've heard that of the fish, it depends on the species of fish, but depending on but the numbers of species which were banned are decreasing in number. In other words, more and more fishing is starting to come back for Ibaraki Prefecture.
The second round, so why don't you go first and then Joel will wrap that up.
This is Henry Marini, and I'm a retired businessman. I understand that the LDP was quite generous in contributions it would make to local prefectures that would accept nuclear plants. Including that kind of income stream, what part of Tokai Mura's economy, what percentage of its economy is derived from nuclear generation activities?
Tokaimura does not depend entirely on nuclear power plants for all of its subsidies and for all of its tax income, but as has been mentioned before, we certainly are very, very much dependent on in particular the JEA, the Japan Atomic Energy Agency, for a great deal of our tax income and for a great deal of our unemployment. As was mentioned earlier, nuclear power-related income accounts for about 1/3 of our entire budget. And having said all of this, however, I would also like to point out that there are other related sources of income. For example, TEPCO has a big thermal power plant in Tokaimura, and that is also a huge tax income source. The first facility in this power plant began running about 5 years ago, went into operation 5 years ago, and it produces 1 million kilowatts. The second facility will start up in December of this year, and it will also produce 1 million kilowatts. And there is also a plan decided to construct a third facility, which will be of similar size. Because of this dependency that we have on nuclear power plants and also other companies related to nuclear power plants, some people ask us, what will happen to you if you completely sever your relationship with nuclear energy? And I always respond by saying that when we consider what horrible thing has happened with the Fukushima accident, I think that all of us in the same position, and what I mean by that is that there are throughout Japan 17 different localities that have nuclear power plant facilities. I think that all of us should think about how we can extricate ourselves from our current situation, our current dependency on nuclear energy as quickly as possible, because the dreams or the goals that we might have had a little while ago, which was that you could build a thriving economy based on nuclear power and related businesses, that dream no longer can be a reality. And the faster you can come to grips with this new reality is better. It's better for the community.
Thank you. Joël Lejean, RTL again. After all, you're very lucky. You are the only city who has known criticality here in the recent history. I mean lucky, of course, as a sarcastic comment. What is it, because you made accusation, you said that a nation like Japan is not qualified to get a nuclear power plant. You also said that there is here a hazardous approach to deal with accidents. I mean, what is it, with your experience, that has caused your catastrophe in Tokaimura? The fission, the criticality, the accident was very serious, first time ever it happened. Might happening in Fukushima right now. We don't know what's going on exactly. What do you think that is wrong with the regulation authorities? What do you think that is wrong with the ministries, the authorities, the government? What do you think is wrong with this country into succeeding into having more any assistance and relief in this crisis here? Do you think it should call for international aid eventually?
I guess you're basically asking a question about what are the fundamental reasons for all of these failures that we're seeing in regard to nuclear energy use in Japan. I believe that when we look at nuclear power plants, we look at the use of nuclear energy, I think the fundamental problem for all of this is that Japan did not develop nuclear technology, the science of nuclear technology on its own, but rather basically imported it as a package deal from the United States. And over time, although Japan has been using and operating nuclear power plants and has been using nuclear energy, they have not really done fundamental scientific research on their own, and so they've basically made minor adjustments to this technology that they have imported from abroad. Compounding the difficulty was the fact that nuclear energy was something that was very necessary for Japanese growth at that time. And so, because the positive aspects of nuclear energy, the amount of electricity it could produce cheaply, was considered to be so important, the other side, which was how to control and regulate the very dangerous aspects of nuclear energy, was not given enough thought and enough time. I think that is the fundamental reasons that we're seeing these problems. In fact, when the JCO criticality accident occurred, I pointed out to the authorities that there was a fundamental problem in the system for regulating nuclear power plants, because in the same organization you had the promotion and the regulation of nuclear energy. But again, this goes back to the fact that at that time in Japan, economic growth was considered to be the greatest goal, and the nuclear energy was considered to be something that had to be necessary in order to promote and make possible economic growth. And so in order to achieve economic growth and to be able to use nuclear energy, a lid, basically, or a cap was put onto the dangers of nuclear energy. And I think that lid was something that we now label the safety myth, the myth of safety that nuclear energy can be controlled. So this was the kind of mental or psychological makeup of society at that time. That was the system that was in place in society at that time, and I think that has continued until the present time and basically led to the Fukushima accident.
Thank you very much, Mayor Murakami. And this will wrap up the press conference by the Mayor of Tokai Village. And thank you for... wait a minute. And as a custom, we'd like to present Mayor Murakami the one-year honorary guest membership. Please come and have a drink with us.
ありがとうございます。